Good morning and Happy New Year. It's a bit chaos behind me, but it doesn't matter. I'm sleeping in the inner sanctuary for 3 days now anyway. 20 March, 21 March and 22 March are holy days. Laches, day 5. That is true, Socrates. And are not our two friends, Laches, at this very moment inviting us to consider in what way the gift of virtue may be imparted to their sons for the improvement of their minds? Was that the original question, or did Socrates make that the question? Very true, Laches says. Then must we not first know the nature of virtue? For how can we advise anyone about the best mode of attaining something of whose nature we are wholly ignorant? I don't think that we can, Socrates. We say then, Laches, that we know the nature of virtue. Yes, and that which we know we must surely be able to tell. Certainly. I would not have us begin, my friend, with inquiring about the whole of virtue, for that may be more than we can accomplish. Let us first consider whether we have a sufficient knowledge of a part. The inquiry will thus probably be made easier to us. Let us do as you wish, Socrates. I should use this for episode 10b. Let us do as you wish, Socrates. Then which of the parts of virtue shall we select? Must we not select that to which the art of fighting in armor is supposed to conduce? And is not that generally thought to be courage? We've only now decided on the virtue. It's going to be a while. Buckle up, boys and girls. Yes, certainly. Then, Laches, suppose that we first set about determining the nature of courage, and in the second place proceed to inquire how the young men may attain this quality by the help of studies and pursuits. Tell me, if you can, what is courage? Indeed, Socrates, I see no difficulty in answering. He is a man of courage who does not run away, but remains at his post and fights against the enemy. There can be no mistake about that. Ah, the bliss of certainty. Very good, Laches, and yet I fear that I did not express myself clearly, and therefore you have answered not the question which I intended to ask, but another. What do you mean, Socrates? I will endeavor to explain. You would call a man courageous who remains at his post and fights with the enemy. Certainly I should. And so should I. But what would you say of another man who fights flying instead of remaining? How flying? Why, as the Scythians are said to fight, flying as well as pursuing, and as Homer says in praise of the horses of Aeneas, that they knew how to pursue and fly quickly hither and thither. And he passes an encomium on Aeneas himself as having a knowledge of fear or flight, and calls him a deviser of fear or flight. Laches. Yes, Socrates, and there Homer is right, for he was speaking of chariots, and you were speaking of the Scythian cavalry. Now cavalry have the way of fighting, but the heavy-armed soldier fights, as I say, remaining in his rank. And yet, Laches, you must accept the Lacedaemonians at Plataea, who, when they came upon the light shields of the Persians, were said not to have been willing to stand and fight, and to have fled. But when the ranks of the Persians were broken, they turned upon them like cavalry, and won the battle of Plataea. That is true. That was my meaning when I said that I was to blame in having put my question badly, and that this was the reason for your answering badly. Oh, that's kind of him to take the blame. For I mean to ask you not only about the courage of the heavy-armed soldiers, but about the courage of cavalry and every other style of soldier, and not only who are courageous in war, but who are courageous in perils by sea, and who in disease, or in poverty, or again in politics, are courageous, and not only who are courageous against pain or fear, but mighty to contend against desires and pleasures, either fixed in their rank or turning upon their enemy. There is this sort of courage, is there not, Laches? Certainly, Socrates. Now all these are courageous, but some have courage in pleasure and some in pains, some in desires and some in fears, and some are cowards under the same condition, as I should imagine. Very true. I was asking about courage and cowardice in general, and I will begin with courage, and once more ask what is that common quality, which is the same in all these cases, and which is called courage. Do you now understand what I mean? Not over well. I mean this, as I might ask what is that quality which is called quickness, and which is found in running, and playing the lyre, in speaking, in learning, and in many other similar actions, or rather which we possess in nearly every action that is worth mentioning of arms, legs, mouth, voice, mind. Would you not apply these terms quickness to all of them? Quite true. And suppose I were to be asked by someone, what is that common quality, Socrates, which in all these activities you call quickness? I should say the quality which accomplishes much in a little time, whether in running, speaking, or in any other sort of action. The quality that accomplishes much in little time. You would be correct. And now, Laches, do you try and tell me in like manner, what is that common quality which is called courage, and which includes all the various uses of the term when applied both to pleasure and pain, and in all the cases to which I was just now referring? I should say that courage is a sort of endurance of the soul, as if I am to speak of a universal nature which pervades them all. That is a very good proposal. I think courage is a sort of endurance of the soul. Courage is a sort of endurance of the soul. Courage is a sort of endurance of the soul. Well, let's see Socrates tear that apart. But that is what we must do if we are to answer our own question. And yet I cannot say that every kind of endurance is, in my opinion, to be deemed courage. Hear my reason. I am sure, Laches, if you can hear my reason with this cracky voice, that you would consider courage to be a very noble quality. Most noble, certainly. I wonder which word. Kalon. I'll check afterwards. And you would say that a wise endurance is also good and noble. Very noble. But what would you say of a foolish endurance? Is not that, on the other hand, to be regarded as evil and hurtful? True. And is anything noble which is evil and hurtful? I ought not to say that, Socrates. then you would not admit that sort of endurance to be courage, for it is not noble, but courage is noble. You are right. Then, according to you, only the wise endurance is courage. It seems so. But as to the epithet wise, wise in what? In all things small as well as great? For example, if a man shows the quality of endurance in spending his money wisely, knowing that by spending he will acquire more in the end, do you call him courageous? Assuredly not. Or, for example, if a man is a physician and his son or some patient of his has inflammation of the lungs and begs that he may be allowed to eat or drink something, and the other is inflexible and refuses, is that courage? No, that is not courage at all, any more than the last. Again, take the case of one who endures in war and is willing to fight and wisely calculates and knows that others will help him and that there will be fewer and inferior men against him than there are with him, and suppose that he has also advantages in possession. Would you say of such a one who endures with all his wisdom and preparation that he or some man in the opposing army who is in the opposite circumstances to these and yet endures and remains at his post is the braver? I should say that the latter, Socrates, were the braver. But surely this is foolish endurance in comparison with the other. That is true. Then you would say that he who in an engagement of cavalry endures, having a knowledge of horsemanship, is not so courageous as he who endures, having no such knowledge. So I should say. And he who endures, having a knowledge of the use of the sling, or the bow, or any other art, is not so courageous as he who endures, not having such knowledge. True. Doesn't feel quite right, does it? That's the idea, I suppose. True. And he who descends into a well and dives, and holds out or any similar action, having no skill in diving, or the like, is, as you would say, more courageous than those who have the skill. Why, Socrates, what else can a man say? Nothing, if that be what he thinks. But that is what I do think. What else can a man say? Nothing, if it's what he thinks. And yet men who thus run risk and endure are foolish, Laches, in comparison with those who do the same things, having the skill to do them. That is true. But foolish boldness and endurance appeared before to the base and hurtful to us. Quite true. Whereas courage was acknowledged to be a noble quality. True. And now, on the contrary, we are saying that the foolish endurance, which was before held in dishonor, is courage. So we are. And are we right in saying so? Indeed, Socrates, I am sure that we are not right. Then, according to your statement, you and I, Laches, are not attuned to the Dorian mode, which is a harmony of words and deeds. For our deeds are not in accordance with our words. Anyone would say that we had courage who saw us in action, but not, I imagine. You heard us talking about courage just now. That's cool. That is most true. And is this condition of ours satisfactory? Quite the reverse. Suppose, however, that we admit the principle of which we are speaking to be to a certain extent. I think I shall stop there. Many things came to mind. Maybe I will speak them on another day. Have a good day.